I'm here with Marg McCuaig-Boyd. She is a principal with Council Alberta, a government and public relations firm. She's also the former Minister of Energy for Alberta. Yes, with the NDP, but in fairness, she was about as good as you can get for an NDP energy minister.
Oh, thank you.
You took that well.
Yeah.
Kidding aside, she's a great lady and actually has done a lot for the energy industry in Alberta. And I could attest to that because she's here at the Global Energy Show with us and is quite warmly received around here. I've seen, we just have Robbie Picard walk by right now.
Robbie's one of my good friends.
That is about as ardent a advocate of the energy industry as you're going to get, and he likes you.
Yeah, I like him a lot too.
Yeah, so any of our skeptical Western Standard viewers, just know, Marg's okay. Marg's okay. She's good people. Marg, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So I saw you're on the program today. We weren't actually scheduled, but I saw you on the program.
Yeah.
I got to get you on. Did you serve was it 4 years as the energy minister?
Yeah, 4 years, 15 to 19.
Yeah. And that was a turbulent time. We had just gone through an oil crash right before you guys came in the office. That's a pretty bad time to...
Yeah, it wasn't the best of times.
Yeah. And then we went through the carbon tax, and then we had federal tanker bans. We had federal carbon tax.
Bill C-69.
Yeah, we had the C-69, better known as No More Pipelines bill. A lot of that has come full circle. Some of it not completely yet, but almost.
Yeah.
Some of it just start, your reaction to where we're going right now. We've had the introduction of executive orders to Canada, where the Prime Minister signs a big piece of paper and laws change. The consumer carbon tax is gone federally and provincially.
Yeah.
The industrial carbon tax still remains. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe just your thought on what's happened on the carbon tax front to start.
Well, I think that was a good start. Take away the consumer part. It never was popular, and maybe look at a different way to do things. I think they're going to look at the industrial land and see, because we have it here in Alberta still, and it's
they
part
call
of
it
the TIER program.
TIER. Yeah, they just renamed it.
Yeah, and a lot of industry actually likes it because it's a pot of money that they can use, for decarbonizing or trying different things. So I think there'll be an appetite for it to stay in some fashion, but whether it changes to be a cap and trade type system or whatever.
Or voluntary.
Yeah, or voluntary.
I could see where they actually might keep it as a voluntary
Absolutely.
program.
Pay into a fund and then you have access to that fund. So, and I do get the impression that Prime Minister Carney is willing to listen and understand, what industry wants. So I think it's good that it's staying for the moment and figure out what's going to work for industry.
It could go one of several ways on that. I think the Liberals, they repealed the carbon tax, knowing, not out of principle. I mean, weeks before they were saying, this makes us all richer and it's great, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then they got rid of it. They had to politically.
Yeah.
But they kept the industrial carbon tax. I've gotten a sense from Carney, especially from Guilbeault. He's not in the environment or energy portfolio anymore. But he's still sitting around the cabinet table. He was saying that, and Carney was saying, but in coyer language, that the burden is going to shift from consumers to industry. Mm-hmm. Do you read that as perhaps that they're going to continue increasing the industrial side of the carbon tax to make up for, from their perspective, losses on carbon emissions from the consumer side?
Hard to say. I hadn't heard that comment, but...
Well, he's right there.
Yeah, I know. He keeps looking at me. I don't know if it's baked at all. I think they're looking at different options and what they can do. I mean, certainly, there was money coming in, but it was also being spent out. So if it's not being spent out, it's not coming in. Mm-hmm. It's a wash. I think it's important to look at industry. If we do want to decarbonize globally, and we heard some of that today in some of the speeches I was listening to, we have to get the money from somewhere. So maybe it is, like you said, either a continuing carbon tax on industry or a voluntary one, and that you have access to the dollars. Remains to be seen, but I do get the sense the government wants to talk about it. He's at the cabinet table, but it's not his portfolio anymore. So
he talks to the media like it kind of.
He does, yeah.
He acts like it's kind of still his portfolio.
Well, sometimes it's hard to let go, maybe, but But you know, he certainly could have some influence at the cabinet table. But I look at a number of the people that are in cabinet now, and I think they're pretty straight shooters. They look like they're willing to learn and listen, and I've seen some good signals that they're
Well, the new energy minister, I mean, that's considered a generally pretty positive sign.
Yeah.
How much weight he has at the table relative to the others is still really too early to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, his name escapes me on.
Tim Hodgson.
Tim Hodgson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he came to the Calgary Chamber of Commerce and at least said the right things.
Yeah, it looked like he was well received. And even before he came, I heard some industry people saying they loved his resume. So that was a good start. I think putting Corey Hogan in as parliamentary secretary to him is a good move.
I was surprised he wasn't in the cabinet.
I actually had him pegged for energy minister to start with.
At least somewhere in cabinet.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's less competent people in the cabinet right now, and
Yeah,
you got a Calgary MP. I was surprised not to see him in. Maybe his energy, maybe not, but at least the cabinet. I was surprised.
I think we'll see him there eventually, and you know. But I like Corey a lot. I've known him for a long time, and he worked with us in government in the bureaucracy side, and he knows the energy industry really well. So we've got a great representative in him at the cabinet table, as it were, or to give Tim advice. So I'm pretty happy that Corey was placed in that position. So I think there's a lot of people that are willing to listen and learn. And honestly, we've seen them come out to Alberta already, and it looks like there is a willingness to repair the relationship that's been in a bit of tatters for the last few years. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're here representing a hydrogen energy-based client, right?
Yeah, one of our clients with Council Public Affairs is a hydrogen client, and we're working with them right now. They're actually part of the group. Part of the clients built Cedar LNG and then sold it to Pembina, so they know what they're doing when they're building things, and then there's a clean tech component of it, and they're working at building a hydrogen highway all across Canada.
Sounds like a country song.
Yeah, I know, eh? Fueling stations along the way, but they're also working at creating the need for hydrogen, because that's good for Alberta, because you can create it through power, but you can also use a lot of natural gas to create hydrogen. So it's a great fit. I really like the company. They're a great group.
It's going to get confusing because, in Eastern Canada, they call electricity hydro.
I know.
Coming from hydroelectricity, my dad moved out to Alberta a number of years ago, and he'd be like, oh, I just got my hydro bill. I'm like, what do you... Huh?
I know.
But we don't have any hydro. I'm sure we probably technically have some hydroelectricity power somewhere.
We do in Alberta,
it's pretty
not a big
small.
thing.
It's not a big thing. So as we start talking about hydro and hydrogen, it's going to get really confusing when we start doing our research.
Yeah, it will. But we're starting in the West as usual, and
BC hydro means something else entirely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You grow it. So let's talk a bit more about that. Until just a few years ago, this was the global petroleum show.
Petroleum show, yeah.
Before that, the Canadian Energy Show. That may have been the original name, Canadian Energy.
Yeah,
Show.
Something like that.
But it goes back nearly 60 years. This is.
Oh yeah, one of the oldest shows.
This is an institution.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have liked to see in the first couple of years just a couple of roughnecks, I'm sure, but it's now a bit more hoity-toity, but it's still dominantly hydrocarbon conventionals and bitumen here. But you've got Korean nuclear right there.
Oh yeah.
You've got all sorts of all components of the energy industry here. Hydrogen is a big one growing up, and it's kind of in between, kind of seen as the renewables and the hydrocarbons. It's kind of in between.
Yeah.
But where do you think it kind of fits into the mix at something like the Global Energy Show here?
It's another option. Even the minister this morning, who is the head of OPEC, said that everything's a mix, and it's what works for different countries, what works. And even they are going into renewables, and I don't know about hydrogen, but they're going into a lot of mixes of energy, and I think this show exemplifies that it is energy in all forms, And as you said, nuclear has been brought up a couple times this morning. And hydrogen's going to be just one more of those. Right now we're talking to people about converting their vehicles, like industrial-sized vehicles or fleets, from diesel to hydrogen. It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cleaner. And in this day of, the trucking industry is just pennies that you make. That can matter for them, converting to hydrogen. But if they convert to hydrogen, they have to be happy know that there's going to be places to fill up. And so it's kind of a chicken and egg thing right now for the industry to build the need, but also the supplies. So,
are there ways to build the need that don't go the route of mandates? When I see California and until recently the U.S. federal, part of the big falling, I guess, between Trump and Musk was getting rid of EV mandates. When I see guys like Guilbeault and former Trudeau, when they talk about banning my gas-powered truck, I'm like, well, I'll drive my truck into the ground and then I'll learn to fix it like a Cuban or something. I'm never going to an EV truck. I live out the country here. I'm never doing that. Are there ways you can think of building demand that aren't based on massive subsidies or mandates the way this was kind of done with EVs? Yeah. And honestly, I don't agree with doing subsidies to build an industry. I think you put in policies. Look how well it worked for Ontario's EVs.
Yeah.
Up in smoke, 50 million.
And, you're picking, I'm going to sound like you did in government, you're picking winners and losers. But
You've seen the light. I must have convinced you.
But no, I think, it's when it's a nascent industry like this, government maybe has to look at maybe some temporary help at the beginning, just like we did with the oil sands many years ago to get it going. But it should never be some program that you become dependent on. It's just to get it started. So, in the case of hydrogen, maybe looking at subsidizing, until they can get it commercialized, maybe the rate that people pay for it. Because as long as it's in the non-commercial stage, it's going to be expensive till you can, get it up. So some kind of policy that helps it become equal with other options. And then it becomes, a way for somebody to consider, okay, maybe I can convert my fleet because it's not going to cost me any more and it will be cheaper than diesel or whatever.
I understand that, but I mean, to quote Milton Friedman, not the most popular guy in the NDP, but I think you might agree. He said there's nothing so temporary as nothing so permanent as a temporary government program. And that's unfortunately proven quite. But there have been exceptions. There was government involvement, at least at the technology level, in getting the oil sands started. I read a fascinating piece just a few weeks ago. Apparently, the initial idea in the late 40s, early 50s was to detonate atomic bombs underground for the oil sands.
Early fracking? Or
the bastards in Ottawa nixed that. They wouldn't let us nuke the sands. Maybe they had a point. Maybe. But, that was at the early technology level, and then there were tax structures based around the capital investment on these things. Okay, fine. But I mean, too often these things just become permanent programs and it gets built into the business model. I'm in media. Look, it happened with the temporary assistance for the media there.
Yeah, there you go.
Permanent, and it's never going away. It looks like it's here for all time. So, dependency on government within industry.
I think any policy has to be careful to put, some boundaries around it. Like, don't make it more than 3 years or 5 years or whatever. Or have like when we did the royalty review, we fashioned it so that when you're building and that you pay less royalties, but once you're in production, then that's the time you pay more. Something like that where it's a gradual system, and there's lots of ways to look at it. But I agree, you don't want the dependence, because then you also risk you get dependent and then somebody comes in and said no. Like an Elon Musk, who's doing that in the States right now, or was, and he's put to bed a lot of programs that people have depended on, and then now they're stuck. And so it either has to grow legs and go on its own or it doesn't. And so I think from a government perspective, they have to be pretty confident that this is something that a little bit of money or a little bit of regulatory support will help. But even helping in the regulations, so they can build these, like in the case of hydrogen, so they can build the stations. We need regulations for those. Something as simple as that, government can help with.
Yeah, and I think it is a weird. Hydrogen is one of those. It's an intersection, kind of between the two sides, and it's kind of almost. It's funny how energy has become ideological between these ones are left wing energy and these ones are right wing energy. Hydrogen, I think, is kind of the neutral ground in the middle, where both sides are kind of okay with it.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't get into the heavily government subsidized and mandate. As soon as you start mandating I have to have a hydrogen, I don't want a hydrogen.
Yeah, no, and
as long as it's our choice and it becomes competitive economically, I mean, I think there's a lot of room for it.
I agree, and I think with all energy, it shouldn't be right or left energy or woke and not woke or whatever.
Well, look at Cybertrucks. If you drove one last year, you were an environmentally conscious granola country. You drive one this year, you're a national socialist.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are weird cultural symbols.
But I think, honestly, what government needs to do is just provide choice for people, and they can choose, and industry can choose what they do, but they have to make it easy for those choices. Yeah, that's my thinking.
I'd be interested if maybe you would submit something for our pages, some things that maybe the Alberta government could do on that front.
I'll think about it, yeah.
Right on. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on for what you're doing at the Global Energy Show today?
No, right now I'm just talking to you and enjoying the rest of the day. I'm done with my panel, and and you're just here to learn, see what's going on in the industry. It's good to stay in touch, and I'm enjoying my time with Council of Public Affairs, staying in the game, and it's good to catch up with you.
It's good. I'm going to go back and watch this later, and then I'm going to compare it to some of our question period exchanges from back in the day, and just see how much nicer we are to each other when the drama of the legislature and politics is taken out.
I don't think there'll be any comparison. No, it's actually that was always a fun game to play, and
Yeah. But I know you were always good when the cameras are off. There was not many people on both sides, so we could go for a beer afterwards and be like,
absolutely,
it was a good show today.
I tell people that a lot. Like, you have no idea that I always like the Roadrunner, Bugs Bunny, and
and Roadrunner.
Yeah, or that dog and the sheepdog used to, and I forget who it was. They used to, click in and then they'd run and be enemies and then they'd come back. Yeah, those guys. I always found it like that. Like, you just, we're all friends at the break, and people don't see that.
Most people on both sides aren't like that, but there were a few. It was you, Shay Anderson, surprisingly to some people, even Shannon Phillips.
Yeah.
I mean, mean on camera. She was so mean on camera.
Yeah.
But off camera,
super nice lady. Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, it was fun, and we did a lot of good work together, and and people don't realize that you actually do work across the aisle, and
we mostly just hate on each other.
Well,
every once in a while, we find some areas.
You try to find some areas where it's important and talk, and that was good.
Well, it was great catching up with you, and I'll see you around the show.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.